just going home. Quiet light, still someday. I'm just going home.
It's not far, just close by, through an open door. Work all done, carried by, free forevermore.
Mother's there expecting me. Father's waiting too.
Lots of folks gathered there, all the friends I knew. Sons and grandfolks too. Home, home, I'm going home. Nothing's lost, all gain. No more fret nor pain. No more stumbling on the way. Blessings on this sacred day. Love forevermore.
Morning star lights the way. Restless dreams all done. Shadows gone, break of day. New life just begun.
There's no break, there's no end, just a living on. Wide awake with a smile, going on and on.
Going home, going home. I'm just going home.
It's not far, just close by, through an open door. Love forevermore. Going home.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Harris. I'm Jeni's baby brother. I'm not going to live that title down. She just introduced me as that a couple days ago. But I would like to welcome all of you to this tribute to a great guy and a life well lived. We were friends more than 50 years. Best friends for the last couple chapters of his life. But Richard Prigmore, a.k.a. the Ricker. What a great, great guy. Later, there's going to be a time for several of you to speak if you want to say a few words about Rick, but since I have the microphone, I'm going to start. 50-some years ago, Jen and I wanted to bring this special guy home, and Mom and Dad hosted a family dinner. Well, we had about an hour or so to socialize before the meal, and we sit down at the table. My father was Mr. Businessman and pretty proper. Our oldest sister was pretty proper. And then there's Ricker. Anyway, Dad was at the head of the table and I'm at the foot. And somewhere during the meal, I asked Rick if he'd pass me the butter. Now, the butter's one of those little rectangular glass deals with one stick of butter, and I held my hand out. He ran that butter clear up to my knuckle, and I looked at him, and he just grinned. I don't remember what came next. I think I was in shock, but we've been friends ever since. So that's our friendship.
Thank you, Charlie. I've been asked to give the invocation and to read scripture from Isaiah 40. Please bow your heads with me. Loving God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for family, for friends, for how wonderfully we are made. God, we just pray as we gather to remember the life of your son, Richard Prigmore, Father, that it be meaningful and well done in all ways. That is our prayer, all for your glory and honor too. We ask this in your name. Amen. Isaiah 40. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, never faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases their strength. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. The word of the Lord.
So if you would, take a moment and pull out that beautiful little red hymnal that is provided. Rick's favorite part of Amazing Grace were the third and fourth verses. It's on page 200. Or it's hymnal number 200. Hymn number 200.
And Brady, you also have it on. You can put it up on the screen there too, down in the PowerPoint slide.
There you go.
Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
And we all have the words inside the program to a journey remembered. And if you'd like to read along, you're certainly welcome to, and I will read aloud. A journey remembered. As people journey through life, they leave footprints wherever they go. Footprints of kindness and love, courage and compassion, humor and inspiration, joy and faith. Even when they are gone, we can still look back and clearly see the trail they left behind, a trail bright with hope that invites us to follow. It's beautiful. Rosemary? Oh, there you are.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. A little bit, thank you. Thank you so much. That was lovely and beautifully said. And thank you to everyone who's taken the time to be here this morning. I was delighted when Jenai invited me to talk about Rick's spiritual journey, and then when the reality of that sunk in, it became a daunting task. When you have a man like Rick Prigmore, larger than life and available to everyone, and a man who is so loved by so many people with a sense of ownership over that relationship, each with their own personal memory that is so big of how he touched their life, you really want to get it right. Courage, faith, humor, they're only words, rather hollow, but intended to convey the true character and warmth of this larger-than-life man we came to love and to admire as much for his sense of adventure as for his loving heart. He deeply loved, and so passionately, first and foremost his children, and ultimately the love of his life and partner in all things, Jenai. Born into a Methodist family in Leon, Kansas on Thursday, July 26, 1923, on the day called the Day of the Symbolic Herald. I think Rick certainly lived up to that name. I'm quite convinced that Rick arrived into this life with a plan to do good work and to explore every inch of the gift of this life. Even though Rick may not have been actively involved in his family church growing up, he nonetheless had an unerring sense of his own deep reverence for God, rooted in a love for all mankind. That love and that concern for others was demonstrated time and time again from his military service in the Army Air Corps in World War II in the South Pacific to every adventure that followed. Inspiration, joy, love, and of course, kindness. Yeah. All of that combined with his natural charm and those sparkling blue eyes, Rick always had a natural ability to put people at ease immediately. In his presence, people knew they mattered, and they knew that he was truly interested in who they were as people and eager to know about their stories, their needs, and their viewpoints. Following his wartime service, Rick went back to work at Beach Aircraft. That was where he was working prior to enlisting. This time he was building Bonanzas, and he was pretty thrilled about it, even though his mother wanted him to go to college on the GI Bill. Just 2.5 months into it, though, Rick's job was cut, and he found himself once again pursuing his undergraduate degree at the University of Wichita School of Business, deciding he would rather be the boss than take chances on getting fired ever again. Turns out his mother was right, wasn't she? Yeah, moms always are. At least I think I am. Yes. While earning that degree at the university, both of his sons were born, Gary Dean and Darrell Ray. After working on his master's degree at the University of Utah and moving out into the world of commerce, Rick's natural good sense about people prevailed once again, allowing him to succeed in any number of entrepreneurial ventures, and he had many. Manufacturer, private pilot, ragtime piano player extraordinaire, award-winning home builder in Colorado Springs, It never mattered what the setting was so much as the fact that he was doing good work for others and loving every minute of his life. Never just settling for what might be okay, this visionary presence always lived by his favorite sentiments: better and better. And he really meant it. Rick's eldest son, Dean, has referred to his father as his mentor, his example in life, his guidance counselor, and friend, a rock that he could always count on. Following many, many moves and life changes over the years, Rick and Dean found a shared joy as they re-examined Rick's World War II career, his sojourn from Hawaii to Tokyo, using Rick's military photo album and a very large map of the Western Pacific as their guide. And yes, there were a few war stories, as only Rick could tell them. Their bond became closer and stronger than ever before following this virtual trip together. By the time Rick and Jenai had come together, they had both formed their ideas and their spiritual philosophies. Rick's lifetime study of comparative religions only helped to forge his strong faith that we are all indeed one in the eyes of the divine. As an elder at the First Christian Church of Colorado Springs, Rick also served in the choir, which was a natural connection to Jenai, the longtime soloist from West Virginia who traveled literally across the country. When they first met at the Village Christian Church in Colorado Springs, a church that Rick had helped to form, the seeds of universal brotherhood had already been born, although it would take a number of years for that to come to fruition. Jenai's immediate reaction upon meeting Rick that first Sunday was, "Oh my, what a beautiful soul." I think she was onto something, wasn't she? Yeah. After relocating to Florida, Rick served as the associate minister of First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, in Fort Lauderdale. It was during that pastorate that he built a housing project for indigent families in the church's area of influence, once again calling upon his building skills that were honed in Colorado. Both Rick and Jenai served that community to the homebound members, as well as working to encourage the teens and the 20-year-olds in their church community. With so much firsthand knowledge of religious disciplines and the internal workings of church institutions, it came as no surprise that Rick and Jenai expanded their personal ministry through the formation of Universal Brotherhood. Recognizing that their desire to serve came as a natural progression of their own spiritual growth. Rick and Jenai were kind of shocked at their attorney's suggestion to expand UB to include others to join them in the ministry. After the wise urgings of their longtime friend and attorney, Marty Zevin, prevailed, UB was born on August 17, 1976, in Tallahassee, Florida. Of all of Rick's major accomplishments, and there were many, he was most proud of UB as an organization that encourages us all to be the light of the world. UB created the perfect spiritual home for practitioners of all esoteric disciplines, many of whom had been wanting a vehicle to serve others in times of crisis and those of celebration. To date, over 5,000 ministers have been ordained across 75 countries throughout the world, which is an astounding accomplishment. Usually, for a significant celebration of life such as this, I would only wear pearls, which we've got. But Rick demanded I up my game. This necklace is 14 karat gold. Much like Rick, right? 14 karat gold, and it embodies all of the sacred symbology of the world. We have squares, we have rectangles, we have circles, and we have also the Trinity. We have the triangle, which represents, of course, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and Father, Mother, Son as one. And the circle, which is deathless and eternal. Rick Prigmore, student of life, husband, father, businessman, clergyman, and the most dedicated human being that I have ever met. Just as the soul journey of Rick Prigmore expanded on Monday, April 18th, so did the arms of the angels open wide to receive this most beloved child of God. Take a deep breath, Jenna. Much like this wonderful chapel here at Waterman Village, reflecting all of the major religions of the world, so does the spiritually crafted ordination ceremony of Universal Brotherhood, with an opening phrase of, in the quiet of this hour, I come to thee for peace, for wisdom, power to view the world today through love-filled eyes, and concluding with, you are the light of the world. You, my precious friend, Rick Prigmore, are indeed the light of the world. And so it is. Thank you.
On the board of directors of Universal Brotherhood, Rosemary Cathcart, who just spoke, is the president. I'm the vice president. Sometimes I feel like I'm the one who's supposed to talk about the pragmatic parts. You know, it's partly because of what I do for a living. You don't just live in the spiritual; you still have to pay bills. And Jenna, I think, really, really appropriately asked me to talk about Rick's softball career, which was, I mean, it's kind of practical and pragmatic, you know, something that is, it doesn't seem like a spiritual mission, but for him it became one. So, good morning. I'm Kelly Graham. I live in Nashville. And in 2007, my husband and I had the great good pleasure of having Thanksgiving dinner at the home of our president, Rosemary Cathcart. Two other guests at that Thanksgiving were Rick and Jenny Prigmore. And it was a Thanksgiving we still talk about. Rick was an absolute force in person, and Jenny is the definition of a steel magnolia. And we just loved both of them instantly. And in fact, and I've never even told Jenny this, when we got in our car to drive home, we talked about them. That's what we were talking about. I mean, it was a beautiful meal. She can cook a turkey like you've never seen. But we talked about you and Rick. The kindness, generosity, and love that radiated from them was absolutely palpable. A year later, after this Thanksgiving dinner, I asked to join UBS as a minister, and I had the great honor to be ordained by my friend Rosemary Cathcart, who is now UB president. And in 2008, we had a conference in Nashville, and to my absolute delight, Rick and Jenni surprised me with another ordination ceremony there. So I've had the great good fortune to be ordained by both our president, Rosemary Cathcart, and our founders, Rick and Jenni, and I cannot tell you how blessed I feel about that. Softball was very important to Rick, and I've been asked to talk a little bit about it. He began playing softball and baseball at the age of 5 and continued until age 82. I had a knee replacement last year. I'm in awe. At the age of 66, in 1989, Rick was featured in an article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution entitled "The Senior's Own Circuit." I'll read you the opening paragraph. When Rick Prigmore of Duluth leaves this world, he wants it to be in a cloud of dust, preferably during a softball game. Quote, I told my wife I want to go out sliding into third base trying to stretch a double into a triple when I'm 93 years old, and I wouldn't mind if it didn't happen until I was 101. So Rick passed just shy of his 100th birthday. And as for softball, he retired from that at age 82. But let me tell you a little bit about this great passion that Rick had in his own words from the manuscript for his second book. The first book, of course, is The Joy of Living. I stole your copy as a visual aid. The Joy of Living is the first book. He wrote a second book that's still in manuscript form. And I also want to point out that the picture that was chosen for the cover of the program is the man playing softball. So he says, when we moved to Colorado Springs, one of the first priorities was to find a ball team. First Christian Church. I don't understand this personally. I dated 2 guys who were into softball, and I had to move on. But it was just so long I can sit on the bleachers. First Christian Church was the logical choice, since we were looking for a church house, and they had a team in the city league. And so for years, I enjoyed softball a couple of times a week. One of his softball cronies was a man named Bob Brown. And Rick said to him one day, what he actually said was, I said to Bob Brown one day at the ball field after a particularly stressing game, and I said to him, Bob, I wish there was some way I could earn a living doing this. Forget it, he said. That's never going to happen. Okay, I said, not knowing that years later it would happen. But not as he imagined. One day, Jenni says to Rick, I'm going to Atlanta. You gonna come with me? And Rick said, well, I tell you what, you find out if they have softball in Atlanta, and if they do, I'll come with you. So Jenni went down first to kind of scout things out, and he asked her to find out about softball opportunities there. Kind of like I asked my husband to live near a Nordstrom or something. No, actually, he said to me one day, I figured it out. If you're not within a mile of Dollar General, you don't want the house. I said, yeah, that's it. Anyway, so Jenni moved to Atlanta, I'm reading from Rick's book, she moved first, got settled and established. I stayed to wind up the transition of our house to new owners, pack our stuff, and etc. So Jenni gets in touch with the supervisor of special population activities, which seems like a really weird title to me, but for the city of Atlanta. And among other responsibilities, she needed to be in charge of senior activities. And in answer to Jenni's inquiry regarding a selected softball league, she said, it's a coincidence you called me. Right, it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence you called me today. I've just gotten back from a staff meeting, and we decided we need to start a senior softball game. Now I have to locate someone to run the program. And Jenna said, well, I just happen to be married to the man who can do it better than anybody else. He's coming down at Thanksgiving. You want to meet him? Well, she did. He did. They did. And they ended up, Rick writes that they went to Shoney's, and Jenna and Rick asked for non-smoking, because this was back in the day, right? And the woman came in to meet him, sat down and talked to them. In Rick's book, he writes that they talked for 3 hours about what his job would be, etc. And at the end of that meeting, he had the job. So now he's getting paid to play softball. But Rick didn't put this part in his book. But when Jenna tells the story, she goes, now here's the kicker. They learn later that this woman was a notorious chain smoker. I mean, smoke after one, after the other, after the other. And I've known people like that, and they can't sit there for 3 hours without a cigarette. But Jenna and Rick were so magnetic that she couldn't. I couldn't think of the word. And then I realized as my purse was closing with the, but magnetic is what I was looking for. I finally, this morning, my purse closed with the little magnetic clasp, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what he is, magnetic. Yeah. So they get to Atlanta. He does his thing, and the 3-hour smoking thing was pretty cool. So Rick writes, for 7 years, I worked, because to him it wasn't work, it was softball. I worked to build a senior softball program in the metro Atlanta area. It expanded to all of Georgia. We held some tournaments, and 1 year our team won the state championship. And then one day, Rick got a call to help form a senior softball World Series organization. And I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of cool. It would promote senior softball on a national level, and that is such an honor and a real recognition of his work. He writes, the dream of a true World Series of senior softball started in the rain. Hurricane Hugo was passing through, and there were huge quantities of rain, and we played in the rain, and we gave out the trophies standing under an umbrella. After this, the event expanded every year, not only the number of players, but also the number of other national leagues. By 1997, more than 50,000 people were a member of this organization playing softball. 50,000 people, this organization that Rick helped start. I think that's amazing. He says, I'm honored to have participated in the birth of the Senior Softball World Series. I plan to play now into the next millennium, swinging the bat, running the bases, and executing double plays on defense. I'll be playing on a 75 and over team next year, so I'll be a rookie. One of the things that those of us who have ministers wonder is, are we making any impact? Does what we do matter to anybody? Sometimes you wonder. And not just ministers. All of us wonder. And all the things I do for people, all the things I think about, all the love I give people, is there any impact? Well, Rick absolutely made an incredible impact on the world in so many ways, and also with softball. He writes, 15 years ago, when we organized the Senior Softball World Series, there were very few teams in the brackets. Now there are hundreds that play in qualifying tournaments for the privilege of World Series competition. Then something else happened, and this was pretty cool. Rick says, he writes, about mid-season 1998, I was notified I had been selected for induction into the Georgia Softball Hall of Fame, which is pretty, I know, right? Pretty darn cool. But listen to what he said when he received the honor. So it's 2001, and I'll be 80 in July. I have no plans to retire at this time. But I realize that eventually Father Time will prevail, and until then, I will be swinging the bar, running the base, and trying to turn double plays into triples when I can and enjoying the game. Oh, when they inducted him, here's what he said. They inducted him along with 4 others, 2 of whom were deceased. In my remarks, I spoke of my appreciation for being inducted non-posthumously. Someone asked Rick, have you played ball all your life? To which I responded, not yet. Rick played on winning world championship softball teams 17 times in his life. 17 times in his life. He had dozens of trophies. When Rick and Jen and I lived in Duluth, they had a 3-story house, yes? And tons of space. And they had displayed all the trophies on top of the kitchen cabinets, you know, the unusable space that people are finally figuring out what to do. But when they moved here, they needed to downsize some things, and he ended up donating most of his trophies to the Gwinnett Senior Center when he and Jen and I moved here. And now I kind of want to go to the Gwinnett Senior Center and look at all these trophies. In his lifetime, he earned 12 world championship rings. He had enough rings to wear 1 on each finger and have 2 left over. I think of this, I think of the way that we naturally cup our hands to drink, or when you're brushing your teeth, you take your hands, put them under the faucet, and fill and brush your teeth, right? To me, having these 10 rings on his fingers and 2 left over is Rick with his cup running over for softball. Thank you. God bless.
We're going to be seeing a film in just a moment about, it's a eulogy film, so watch the screens.
Action.
Hello, I'm John Prigmore, Rick's brother. I'm here with my wonderful bride of 75 years, Louise, along with sons John, Bob, and our daughter Jane, and our son-in-law Ron. We're speaking to you from our home in Kansas. We thank you for joining us. While this is a recording, know that we are with you in spirit to celebrate Brother Rick's life today. Richard Doyle Prigmore, born July 26, 1923, and passed April 18, 2022, at the age of 98. Rick, as he is known, was born on a small farm in south central Kansas. He was the second son of Harry and Mary Prigmore. He is survived by his wife, Jenny, and his son, Gary Dean. He is preceded in death by his oldest brother, Robert, his youngest brother, Don, first wife, Eileen, and son, Darrell, and 2 stepsons, Mark and Scott. Probably the majority of the listening body today has gotten to know Rick during this last half of his life. The blessings of his family have given me the opportunity to relate a few memorable events of our life, his and mine. So from this point on, I'll speak directly to Rick as if he is sitting in the room, and he probably is. And I'm sure he'll be laughing, so please feel free to join in. Hey, bro. Remember that elk hunting day in Taylor Park when we were up in that black timber above Vanderland's Ridge? We were taking a break, eating a sandwich, and somehow got around to discussing end of life. We found that our wishes were very much the same. No tears or wailing. Instead have some people rejoice with tales and laughter and memories. Well, Rick, that time has come. And I'm here to share some memories, and I hope that will match yours. Life is good for the Prigmore family, and yes, there were some speed bumps along the way. There was the drowning of Robert at age 18. But most families have challenges of one nature or another, and it just seems to further solidify this family and help them to count their main blessings, their many blessings. In the Depression years, a lot of farm boys earned a little bit of money trapping fur-bearing animals. Raccoons, possums, skunks, so forth. Such catch would require the skinning of the animal, the stretching of the felt or the pelt, letting it cure, and then shipping it to the buyer. Generally 8 to 10 pelts on an average season give an income of about $10. During this 2-month period, you, the boss, would select the route, the number of sets, and the harvesting, if any. You were the boss and I was the apprentice, but you were very considerate. On the coldest evenings, he would let me run the route because I was young and faster than he was. Or he had some homework to do. You were the boss. You'd take care of the large catches. You would sacrifice your time and efforts and take care of the large catches, and I would do the smaller ones. Apprenticeship was your name for that. The large animals, raccoons, foxes, coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions. Small animals were skunks and polecats. So at the end of the season, you had no large animals, and I had no close friends. We shared the income, but all of it went into a checking account in your name. You were the boss, and I was just the other guy with a dull knife and few close friends. You were a good teacher. Better and better. At the end of the trapping season, our school went into the track season. Field events and races. As I remember, the field events consisted of a shot put and a sound pit for jumping, standards for jumping, and a broken fishing pole for a crossbar. Those were hard times and they didn't have much money. The race events were just run around the perimeter of the playground. You remember that? At this particular time, there was a West Coast pole vaulter. I think his name was Waterman. He had a goal of 15 feet for a world's record. You decided to become a pole vaulter and vault higher than 15 feet. Problem. We had no school, or the school had no vaulting pole. So the boss decided that we would buy a vaulting pole with our trapping money, including my half. So we owned a pole, but we had another problem. There were no standards to carry a crossbar. Problem. We had no crossbar. The only horizontal things available around our farm was a 4-foot high barbed wire fence and a clothesline of about 6 feet. Ah, problem solved. All we needed was a hole at the clothesline to plant the pole in so the vault could be made. Do you remember that? But there were 3 requirements. First, you had to put the pole in the hole. You had to have enough momentum to carry you to the crossbar, clothesline, and have enough arm strength to swing the body up and over the crossbar. Right? Remember that? Now, if you were unsuccessful on any of the 3 requirements that I just mentioned, 4 things would happen. Number 1, gravity would prevail. Number 2, number 1 would be memorable for several days. 3, our parents would be very upset. And 4, I would get to repair the damage. You were the boss, and you didn't need the experience. You are now vaulting over the clothesline with little effort, and for the simple fact that you had very limited training facilities, you decided to abandon your goal of 15 feet and with the vaulting pole, and you opted to invest in a home chemistry set. You sold your share of the vaulting pole to me. But, whoa, you did not gift that pole to me, that share. It cost me $4.82, half of my bank account, or my half of the banking account. But who remembers details like that? And what was I to do with a vaulting pole? I was a boss of nothing. And there you were on your way towards a Nobel Prize in chemistry. El Dorado High School, 4th hour, 3rd floor, chemistry lab. Remember that? Today's lesson was white phosphorus. Caution, remember 2 things. The material must be kept submerged. Number 2, do not forget number 1. Remember that? You were fascinated by the chemical, and you began to dream of many things he could do with magic and tricks with his friends. I'm sure you remember that. As the class ended, you wrapped up the remains of the chemical and put it in your pants pocket. You made about 2 steps into the corridor when your pocket burst into flames. And somebody yelled, "Fire!" And all hell broke loose. And what? I can't use that word? Let me read the script again here. It says, "Oh, gracious me, there caused a great deal of activity in the corridor." Well, that's right. But I like my term best. All hell broke loose. Someone down the hallway pulled the trigger on the building fire alarm, and about 200 students tried to be the first off of the third floor, while you, Rick, were going upstream trying to get to the boys' locker or bathroom so you could get your the fire out and your trousers off. Luckily, a staff member grabbed the fire extinguisher and put out the fire. But this was an old type of fire extinguisher. It had about 2.5 gallons of water in it, and as you turned it over, there was some chemical event happened to create pressure, and fire comes shooting out of the rubber hose. Problem: there was no way to turn off the water. We got the fire out, and they soaked about 12 of the kids in the immediate area. School nurse treated, bandaged the wound. You have that scar to this day on your right thigh. The principal was outside trying to round up the kids and get them back to the building with little success. The front office decided that your trouser damage prevented you from attending any more classes that day. So get in your car and go home. And you did. Problem: I was in junior high in the building across the street and knew absolutely nothing about the event in the high school. Time to go home. My 29 Ford Model A was gone. I learned from some high school students I asked if they knew my brother, and they started laughing. And between laughings, they told me what happened to my brother. He was famous. And I was left with 10 miles to walk home. Bad day. There went your chances for the Nobel Prize, Rick. Remember that. Okay, in closing, several people would see you and Don and I together, and they would make a remark that you and Don were bald and I still had some hair. Was I adopted, or did I have a different father? Well, I would report that science had discovered that at a certain age, men's hair roots would begin to grow down. If the roots hit gray matter, the hair would turn gray. If, on the other hand, they didn't hit anything, the hair would fall out. And you would come back with, I wore my hair off on the headboard of the bed. Oops, I almost forgot little Donnie. He never became an apprentice for trapping. He opted to concentrate on baseball, shortstop. At high school, after high school, he was offered a contract to play for the New York Yankees. At the same time, he was offered a 4-year scholarship in engineering at Kansas State, which he accepted. He worked his way up the corporate ladder and finished his career as president of Sprint. I'm still baffled about how in the world a Flatlander, Kansas boy could be so successful without ever learning how to skin a skunk. And so it goes. You had more than your share of spending the bulk of World War II in the South Pacific, and in being instrumental in the creation of a new church They're playing in several national championships, slow pitch softball. So, Bud, I'm proud of you and your successes. Thank you for being you. I'll see you down the road. Better and better.
Exit.
Hello. I'm
Good morning. My name is Jay Whittam, and when Jenai asked me to play something today, I was pleased and honored. And then after I had talked to her, I started to think about, what do you play for a man like this? And I've been in the music business close to 60 years, and I know a lot of songs, and I couldn't come up with one that was worthy of this guy. So I concluded that he needed a song of his own. And I started to think about, well, what would that be about? What would it represent? And you've heard the phrase several times today, but I started to think that any of you who ever asked Rick, hey Rick, how are you? How are you doing? You know what his answer was, right? Absolutely. And it occurred to me as I was thinking about it that this really, in 2 words, encapsulated Rick's entire way of seeing life. And so I took a few snippets of biography and kind of messed around with those a little bit, took a heavy dose of metaphor and a whole bunch of love, and this is the song that came out. And I ask you to forgive me if I choke up a little bit. I love this man. The youth with ball and glove in hand was trying hard to understand the big league dreams of cheering fans don't always come true. I'm scared and lost, he told the coach. The wise old man that he approached. Without that dream, I don't know where to go. The coach said, son, new dreams will come. You're still so young and far from done. But this is all you really need to know. Better and better, better and better. Each day that's lived in love is better than the one before. And always remember, gets better and better. A young man in the prime of life finds a soul to be his wife. Together they will share their families. But deep inside, despite his pride, with nagging doubts he tried to hide about the kind of man that he might be. Just be yourself, a wise old crone told him as they sat alone. And this, my dear, is all you need to know. Better and better, better and better. Each day that's lived in love is better than the one before. And always remember that love is forever. And when you live your life in love each day, gets better and better. Through love and laughter, pain and tears, they walk together through the years in service to the brotherhood of man. With sons and daughters of the heart scattered round in every part, this whole wide world that we all hold so deep. And when they ask, how shall we live? How can we serve? What can we give? The answer that they always got was this: better and better, better and better. Each day that's lived in love is better than the one before. And always remember that love is forever. And when you live your life in love each day, gets better and better, better and better. And when we live our lives in love each day, gets better and better, better and better, better and better.
There's going to be a video now. And Jay will play the guitar for us while we watch. we move now into a time of sharing. So those of us who would like to say something can come up and let me introduce myself. I'm Manahara. I'm also a UB minister and one daughter of the spiritual family of Rick and Jenai. And I can't really talk too much about Rick. He was very, very dear to me. My second father, very close to my heart. Rick and Jenai were at my wedding, and Rick gave me away 4 years ago. And it was very, very special for me. But I have felt a very, very strong bond with both Rick and Jenai my entire time I've known them, which was since 1994. And I thought the other day of what to say, because I wanted to share something. And I could only think of really funny stuff. You know, Rick had the most amazing sense of humor. And I remember he took me to a ball game, to see the Braves in Atlanta. This is many years ago. And so, you know, we're in the car and we're driving along, and I don't know Atlanta very well or the neighborhood, and I see the name of this street called Beaver Ruin. So I turn to Rick and I go, what does that mean? Where did that name come from? So very seriously, he starts telling me this whole story, you know, about where this name came from. And he was just reeling me in. And I'm buying the whole thing. And after a few minutes, I'm like looking around going, wait a minute. And I looked at him, I said, you're pulling my leg, aren't you? And he started this, you know, his giggle, you know, how he normally laughed. It was just, it was precious. I never forgot that. But there have been so many little memories that I've shared over the years with both Rick and Jenai, going to their house and hanging out with them. And when he made his apricot schnapps, I remember that. He gave me the recipe. Yes, I have it if anyone wants it. And it was quite delicious. But, you know, how do you talk about somebody as big? That's the only word I can come up with, as big as he was. I mean, big in the, like the aura took over the room, you know, the minute he walked in. And that bigness came from his big heart. It wasn't all of his talents, which he had many, but it was his unbelievable ability to just embrace whatever was happening in the moment. And I'm a student of Eastern philosophy and Buddhism. And it's a rare achievement when someone can be in life so present in such a celebratory way, with so much joy and love that just kind of oozes out of them and touches everybody that comes near. And I believe that's why he was successful. It wasn't so much I mean, of course he was talented, but you're successful when you can touch that many people in such a deep and profound way, where people feel it and they respond to it in such a positive, with everything they have to offer. And I think Rick was one of those individuals who not only lived up to his own potential, but saw the potential in everyone around him. And you were forced to live up to yours if you were around him for any length of time. You had to. You know, there was like, well, you know, okay, you know, and it was sort of like, in the East they call it the guru throwing the gauntlet, where you have no choice, you know, this is it, you do it or not. And, you know, we hopefully are getting there. You know, he's a very difficult person to emulate, but I think he certainly deserves not only all of our love that we had for him, but the respect and honor that he earned by being who he was. So there are many more little stories I can share, which we can do afterwards, but I want to leave the podium for others to share as well.
Thank Thank you, Manahara. Hi, Rosemary Cathcart again. I wanted to let everyone know that Dean diligently put together a wonderful chronology, and we have it available. So we have a number of copies. Kelly went out this morning, and we have 50, I think, or 55. So please, they will be on a chair or someplace, or I'll be holding them on the way out the door. But this is wonderfully written and from the heart, and I would like you to have a copy of it. And I know Dean would too. We plan on publishing it in the newsletter, but you get hot off the presses copies here. I wanted to thank Manahara for what she said, because when you're in the presence of somebody who has such a good heart, and Rick never made anybody do anything. It was just the beauty and the love and the ever-expanding heart energy that he put out. You did indeed always want to be better. And yeah, I owe him a great deal. Jenna asked me to please read a letter from Marty Zevin, the wonderful attorney that we all know. Marty is the man who, when Rick and Jenna were incorporating Universal Brotherhood, said, you know what, in the state of Florida, it costs as much to incorporate for 2 people as it would to open it for any number of members. And they were kind of shocked that anybody might want to join them, but here we are, right? We joined the bandwagon. So this is a letter from Marty to Jenna, and it was originally written in April 29th of this year. Dearest Mom, I'm sending this email I originally sent to you in October. When I wrote it, I thought it might be nice for Dad's eulogy, and the letter to you might be nice too. So unless I come up with something a whole lot better, we would be grateful if you could have someone special, I guess that's me, read both of these at the service. If you need me to snail mail it, I can. All of our love, Marty, Dottie, and David. And here's the original letter. Dearest Dad, Rick, Dottie and I met you and Jenna in the early 1970s. We were dating then and thinking about a long-term future. We were also searching for an inclusive spiritual center that we could both embrace. God led us to that spiritual center. It was a different kind of spiritual center called Rick and Jenna Prigmore. We've known you both ever since, loving you, being adopted by you both as children of your extended heart family, being guided by your unconditional commitment to each other. You are the epitome of the sacred union. As for you personally, dearest Dad Rick, you are the most eternally joyful human being we have ever met. When you say, I'm better and better every day in every way, you really mean it. Most of us mortals are affected by what happens to us on a daily basis. If we are sick or injured or hurting, we tend to be pretty miserable. At best, our happiness is significantly lessened. But for Rick Prigmore, it's still celebrate every day and twice on special occasions. You have an innate ability to be in total acceptance of whatever is happening at any given moment in your life. You are not only accepting of it, but you are grateful for it, happy about it, and celebratory all at the same time. We all have bad things happen to us, tragedies that throw us for a loop. But when you're thrown, you land on your feet quickly, steady yourself, and start walking right back to that right place, the Rick place, the place of contentment and joy and love. God is within us. You channel that love through to every person in your life and to the world beyond. You are an enlightened being, radiating joy and love just by being you. We have great gratitude for all of the years that you and Mom have been in our lives. Long after you are physically gone, your indomitable spirits will continue to heal the world with your love and your joy. Thank you, dearest Dad, for blessing our lives with all of our love always. Marty, Dottie, and David Zevin. Thank you. If anyone else would like to come up and share, or if you don't want to come this far, stand up and holler. All right, we have a person. Thank you. Come up here.
I'm Joyce Oliver, and I've known them since, it seems like it was an October day in, anyway, 1989. I know that, and I know exactly where. Jenna and Rick would always, when they would greet me, say, I remember the place that we first hugged. The book that Rick wrote was such, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to write anything. I know some of you have witnessed that birthing of pulling together something of that size. It's huge. The title, The Joy of Living, is to me almost a challenge for us to continually look for that joy and to embrace it. It's always there, and it's always a choice. Will we embrace it, or will we choose the drama that is all around us? I truly think that, from my perspective, in a world that tends to think that you're being Pollyanna or anything inauthentic, that there is, or glossing over, that you're not feeling what's really going on, you can feel it and still choose to let joy be your dominant response. And Rick showed me that in a way that I needed to see with, I've always wanted and felt like I needed to carry the energy of joy into a world that sometimes forgets that this is a gift. Every day, every moment, every friendship is a gift. And if we can truly feel that we are a creation of God's, how can we not be in joy? Are we? How can we not? So, embrace the joy of living.
So sorry. I don't know what caused me to do this last night. I guess maybe a little precognitive intuition about wanting to speak. But I wanted to share some things. I'm probably the baby of the family. I came along in 2006, and I think I'm one of the last few that was actually ordained by Rick and Janai. And it was such an honor. I remember that day so clear. When you took my hands, I literally stepped back. And Rick just grinned. And it took me a year to, what I wanted to do was apologize. I said I'd never felt such a wall of love hit me. And Rick just nodded and said, you got it. And that meant so much. But here's what I wanted to do. And I'm Reverend Dr. David Hamilton, and I am honored to say something for Rick. It was the day when Jamie Thornberry called and told me that Rick's passing, or his promotion as I call it. It was that very morning that I had planned to talk with Paul about coming down. And I had thought a few times before about coming down, but things got in the way, COVID a lot. But it reminded me of a very strong lesson that another mentor of mine taught me, Joyce Reynolds. She would always say, all we have is now. And I encourage all of you to remember, never let your now pass you by. But here's what I would really like to say. This may sound weird to some of you, but I get a lot of wisdom from movies and TV shows, and I share it and work it into a lot of the weddings I do and memorials and celebrations of life. So here we go. When King Lear dies in Act 5, do you know what Shakespeare has written? He has written, he dies. That's it. Nothing more, no fanfare, no metaphor, no brilliant arrangement of words. The culmination of the most influential work of dramatic literature in our history is, he dies. And it takes a genius like Shakespeare to come up with, he dies. And yet every time I read those two words, I find myself filled with dysphoria. And I know it's only natural to feel sad, but it's not because of the words, it's because of the amazing and awesome life that came before those two words. Well, Rick lived all 5 of his acts, and that was shown here today. What a wonderful life. Different areas of life. Softball, entrepreneur, father, husband, and a papa to all of us. So I ask you one day, if you were ever talking about this wonderful man to a stranger, another friend, recall all of his amazing life and all its wonder, amazement, and joy, and end it with a very simple and modest, he died. And I really think if Rick could tell us one more last thing before, it would be something like this. Your life is an occasion. Rise to it. How many people do you know that get to create something that helps change the world? And that's what Rick and Janai's dream has done. And what a gift to the rest of us that we get to share our gift with the rest of the world because of them. I will always be thankful. There is one more thing I like to share with people that we need to realize, and most of you get this already. But we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And then when we're lucky, we get to go home. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry. So I had the most wonderful pleasure. I'm sorry, my name is Anna, and I was the social worker for Rick in hospice, and I've been there since, October time. And just as everyone has already said, the very first thing that Rick ever said to me when I first saw him was, you know, we're always supposed to ask, how are you feeling today? Are you in any pain? And what would he say to me every time? Better and better. And not just better and better, but with a massive smile on his face. And from a medical aspect of life, I have never seen somebody as old as he was, riddled with cancer in his body, and still have a smile on his face and no pain medication. And always just there and loving and just ready for a visit and all the time in the world for the visit. And nobody has ever touched me like the two of them have touched me. And it's such a beautiful thing to witness that they allowed me to come into their home and not just be a worker, but to be somebody that was a very welcomed member of their family. And Janai always opens her home in such a beautiful way, and the two of them together. Really, I can see being here, I've been touched all morning. And he is going to be missed. He really is such a father figure to so many, not just here, but over the course of time, there's people all over the world that they have touched and they've made such a special impression on. Thank you.
I think it's probably about right. Wow, so beautiful to see everyone. What a beautiful celebration. I'm Wendy Nethersall, and so honored and grateful to be in the beautiful Universal Brotherhood family and the Hart family. It was 2004 when Jay and I, my husband Jay and I, had I was thinking of a word. It was an amazing and cataclysmic shift in our life when we came across friends that were part of Universal Brotherhood, and we immediately knew that we wanted to be a part of that family and be able to give back in some way, service. When we sent what I like to call I think it's this like a spiritual autobiography that you're asked to send in, and we immediately got a message back from Jenai, and she had seen our Anamkara as part of our description, which in the Irish language means soul friend. And she had been reading John O'Donohue's book, Anamkara, at that moment, as we know, not coincidentally, maybe. And instantly we felt such a joy of belonging. There was going to be a gathering very soon after that, and we were invited to come. And 2004, or it would have been right, I think it was even that year. So from that moment, we just had a place that's never been the same for us. And with Rick, I know we're celebrating Rick, but I don't think about Rick without thinking about Jenai. The two of them are, beloveds together. And we used to drive from Florida up to where we were building our home in North Carolina years ago, stopping off at Harmony House and studying Reiki with Jenai, which was such an honor and a beautiful way to be able to give back. and spending beautiful time together, having our chocolate vitamins in the morning, and all the stories that we would hear, many of which I would ask, I think Jen I later, is that really true? Did that really happen? Because I thought maybe there was a little embellishment, but I think that they were pretty true. And so just amazing, amazing people. Jay always says that Jenai and Rick are functional parents, but they're really just, they're sorry, Mom and Dad. When we built our home in the mountains of North Carolina, we really, really knew that we had to have and really wanted Rick and Jenai to come up, and they did a house blessing for us, and you could just, the moment they were there, they dubbed our home up there the Magic Mountain, and from that point forward, it was the Magic Mountain, and just beautiful, the Magic Mountain of Ardenu. So there's so many stories, and I just feel such gratitude for the grace that came into our lives, and with both Rick and Jenai. We'll never, ever forget this amazing man, of course, and his beautiful, beloved Jenai. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful to be a part of the family. All of the rest of the family that we came into and are a part of too.
Jenai?
There were two scriptures that I wanted to bring representative of Rick. One was, he flew with eagles. He knew who he was. He knew that he was unlimited and not tied down to the mundane. The other one was, the 30th Psalm, I believe. The quote is short. It says that we go through a lot, and what's important is that there is joy in the morning. It's a new day. It's a day for joy. He showed us how. Because I know a lot of us, a lot of people who wanted to be here couldn't be. And many of those people are Universal Brotherhood ministers throughout the world. And I just want to say a wonderful thank you to all of you for living your life, for being the kind of light that Rick envisioned that we all could be. Thank you for being who you are and for touching the world with your love. Thank you all for coming.
such wonderful, beautiful words. Oh gosh, I don't want to start this now. From everyone. There's so much love, and I think the biggest takeaway for me, we all know, like it's been said many times today, about better and better, and of course, Rick's book, The Joy of Living. And I think, a good takeaway for us is about love and joy. And so we have a song for him. It's called Love Lives On. He's right here. He's everywhere, and love is with us now. And I feel he's in this room, so. We're going to lift the energy here, bring some joy into the room like we're doing now.
Drop the orchestra.
Try as we might to capture a life, words never seem quite enough. 'Cause words can't contain the great heart and the spirit, the passion that you brought to us. But your love goes on, and the feeling's strong. Through the pain and tears, we will hold your dear. Love lives on. A husband, a dad, and a minister too, a friend to all that you knew, a smile to light up the world for us, and great big bear hugs too. And your love goes on, and the feeling's strong, and your light shines through. Can you feel it too? Love lives on. No more tears, no more pain. Young, free again, shining bright as a star. Now you are free to soar where you will, to take up your mission again. Your next great adventure is on the horizon, so Godspeed to you, my friend. Till we meet again, love will never end. In our hearts, you're near. We will hold you dear. Love lives on.
Jenai and family has asked me to read a special thanks. Start off with Waterman Village employees who go far beyond the role of their jobs by visits and the little things they do every day that make you feel special and cared for with their time, attention, love, and prayers. To our neighbors that come over the years, who are the best at checking in, reaching out, and helping out as they become good friends that we remember. This makes living here so very special. The Hart family, the tribe related to by blood or by life that fill our hearts, keeping in touch and sharing life's journey by phone, visits, connections that feel unexplainable, caring, sharing, and knowing they are always there for you and willing to support you through anything. Medical doctors and their teams that get to know our body, mind, and spirit as they listen and work with us to assist in caring for our health in the ways that are best for each individual and their sensitivities while on our earthly human journey. We appreciate their skills and caring hearts. To hospice care workers who volunteer to show up and support not only those who are preparing to graduate to the pure energy world, but also those remaining to continue the rest of their earthly journey. They know just what to say at just the right moment. And to all the UB ministers, directors, board of directors, the graduates of UBU, who serve humanity in their unique ways as they carry out the legacy of the Universal Brotherhood movement. For this, we are truly blessed and grateful. And now the closing prayer by Manahara. Thank you.
Let us pray. Beloved, all-wise and loving God, you who bring comfort and healing, whose light shines through us, let us feel your love and presence today. Help us to surrender to you our sorrow and our sense of loss. Please help us to remember that life is everlasting and that your beloved Rick Prigmore, husband, father, brother, spiritual leader, and dear friend, lives on in your loving embrace, and that our connection to him remains whole. Teach us to follow Rick in how he lived every moment of his life, in joy and optimism, humor and wisdom, acceptance, faith, and love. As this part of today's celebration comes to a close, may we leave this chapel with peace and gratitude in our hearts for how Rick deeply and lovingly touched each of us in our lives. Let us be thankful for the connection we have felt this morning with God, with Rick, and with each other. Let us welcome a new understanding and a renewal of our spirits. Let us once again open our hearts to healing, to feeling the joy and the celebration that beloved Rick, our dear old dad and fearless leader, would have us feel. Thank you, God, for the wonderful times we shared with Rick and for the gift of his presence in our lives. We go forth knowing that the only reality is the light and the love of God that flows through each of us. Amen. And we'll have the closing hymn, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and the words are on the back of the program. Everyone rise. Thank you.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be a moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Everyone, oops, is this still on? Hello? Can't make the announcement. Microphone. Microphone's
have your attention? We're going to be gathering outside in the courtyard right after the ceremony. Yeah. If you. Okay, here we go.